Hello students, in our previous video, we learned how metals and non-metals burnt in the air and form their respective oxides. We observed the reaction of metals like sodium, potassium, magnesium and aluminium when burnt in the air. All these metals show different reactivity with oxygen. But burning in oxygen does not help us to decide about the reactivity of some metals like zinc, iron, copper, lead, etc. because these metals do not easily burn in the air. They require a high heating temperature. For example, lead requires a temperature up to 800 degrees Celsius to form lead oxide. And that is why we will react these metals with water and see their reactivity. Generally, when metals react with water, they produce metal oxides and hydrogen gas. But not all metals react with water. To observe the reactivity of metals with water, let us perform an activity. For this activity, first collect the samples of sodium, potassium, zinc, aluminium, lead, iron, magnesium, calcium and copper metals. Then put small pieces of these samples separately in beakers half filled with cold water. Now, what do you observe? Which metals react with cold water? Yes, you are right. Sodium, potassium and calcium react with cold water, while other metals did not react with it. Does any metal produce fire while reacting with water? Yes, sodium and potassium produce fire. Sodium and potassium react vigorously with water and gives sodium and potassium oxide respectively. These oxides further get dissolved in water and form sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. During this reaction, hydrogen gas is released. This reaction is so violent and exothermic that the evolved hydrogen gas immediately catches fire. Here is the chemical reaction for the same. On the other hand, calcium reacts with cold water and gives calcium hydroxide. The reaction of calcium with water is less vigorous. The heat evolved in this reaction is not sufficient for hydrogen to catch fire. The chemical reaction for this is: during this reaction, calcium starts floating. This is because the bubbles of hydrogen gas formed stick to the surface of calcium and make it lighter. Do you observe that some metals like magnesium, zinc, lead, aluminium, iron and copper do not react with cold water? So now let's put these metals into separate beakers, half filled with hot water, and observe them one by one. We see that magnesium reacts with hot water and form magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Like calcium, magnesium also starts floating. This is due to the sticking of bubbles of hydrogen gas on magnesium's surface. Here, we also observe that metals like zinc, aluminium, iron, lead and copper do not react with hot water too. So, let us try whether they react with steam or not. For this, we take a test tube and fix it horizontally on a stand. We put some glass wool soaked in the water and the metal sample near it. We fix a delivery tube with the help of cork at the test tube opening. We keep the other side of the delivery tube submerged in a bowl filled with water. We also place a test tube in the bowl to collect the hydrogen gas. Now we heat the glass wool with the help of a burner so that the steam is produced. Now we observe the reaction of metals with steam. So here we observe that aluminium, iron and zinc react with steam and form their respective oxides and hydrogen gas. And here are the chemical reactions for this. From this activity, we conclude that metals such as lead and copper does not react with any kind of water at all, that is cold water, hot water or steam. In general, we can say that some metals react with water and produce their oxides and hydrogen gas. These metal oxides further dissolve in water and form metal hydroxides. But what about non-metals? How do they react with water? Actually, non-metals do not show any kind of reactions with water. They are not affected by water. For example, sulfur and phosphorus show no reaction with water. So students, in this video, we saw that metals like potassium and sodium react with cold water vigorously, which means that they are highly reactive metals. Calcium reacts with cold water but less vigorously as compared to sodium and potassium. We also learned that metals like magnesium react with hot water, while aluminium, zinc and iron react with steam. This means that they are less reactive comparatively. Metals like lead, copper, gold, silver and platinum do not react with any form of water at all, which means that they are least reactive. We also learned that non-metals do not react with water. In our next video, we will learn how metals and non-metals react with acids.